wherever you've been today, teaching or in your setting and so forth. So welcome to our Literacy in Year 2 Supporting Your Pupils Beyond Phonics webinar. My name's Nicola Romain and I'm the National Primary Literacy Advisor here at Pearson. So let's get started. So let's have a little look at the aims for this short webinar this afternoon. You can see them there on the screen. So your Year 2 pupils have finished their core phonics learning. So this is about what comes next. So this webinar aims to explore the key literacy skills that children should be developing in Year 2 and how Pearson, how we can support you in delivering the requirements of the reading framework in this important year group. So hopefully you've had an opportunity to just have a quick look at those aims on the slide. So on the slide that you can see now, you can see a screen grab of the reading framework. I'm sure we're all really familiar with that new version of the reading framework and the English programmes of study Key Stages 1 and 2. So as the national curriculum tells us, during Year 2, teachers should continue to focus on establishing pupils' accurate and speedy word reading skills, and they should also make sure that pupils listen to and discuss a wide range of stories, poems, plays, and information books, and this should obviously include whole books. So the sooner that pupils can read well and do so frequently, the sooner they'll be able to increase their vocabulary, comprehension, and their knowledge across the wider curriculum. So we can see this now, that national curriculum content reflected in the updated reading framework. So whilst previous reading guidance has often focused on EYFS and Year 1, the updated framework also emphasises the importance of and gives guidance on the effective teaching of reading in Year 2 and beyond. So it's full of ideas and advice for making sure that all children acquire crucial reading skills quickly and effectively, and that struggling readers swiftly catch up with their peers. So in this short webinar, as I said, we'll take a look at those key themes. Hopefully they will really help to consolidate for you those key themes that you need to be focusing on in Year 2. And we'll be looking at those through a Year 2 and beyond lens. And I'll also be suggesting some products from our primary portfolio that would be ideal to support those themes as well. So let's get started. So we're starting off with developing fluency. So one of the key areas to focus on in Year 2 and beyond is reading fluency. And we can see this threaded through the revised framework. So if children can't read fluently, they will have difficulty in accessing the whole curriculum throughout their school careers, and they will also miss out on the many benefits of reading for pleasure. So what is reading fluency itself? So you can see on the screen there, we've got, it starts with accurate reading. So for children who are struggling with reading or reading at less than 90 words per minute is particularly important to assess their reading and find out where those gaps might be in their phonic knowledge. And for children who have relatively few gaps, but need that just little bit of extra support, it's really useful or necessary, in fact, to use an SSP to address these gaps. So that would be the SSP that you have been using throughout reception, Year 1, and possibly at the beginning of Year 2 to finish off your Phase 5 or possibly Phase 6 phonics work. So whilst consolidating their phonics learning will help to develop accuracy, a reading speed of 90 words per minute is a really good starting point. Children reading more slowly than this are usually too focused on decoding to be able to work on their comprehension, accuracy, and expression. So there's the blocker. So the target is to first make sure that all children in Year 2 can be at 90 words per minute and to help them build on their fluency from that point onwards. We then have, so we've had accurate reading, we've got addressing those gaps in phonics, which is really, really key at this time of the year in Year 2. And then we've got prosody. So prosody is also known as reading with expression, and it's also part of becoming a fluent reader. So children need to hear expert readers modelling fluent and expressive reading. And we have this threaded throughout the reading framework as well, that reading aloud. So it's a great idea to read aloud to the class and to show them what fluent reading sounds like. So a couple of techniques you could try, and these are also referenced in the framework, are echo reading. So you read a sentence and the children copy you with the same intonation, or choral reading. So children practice reading part of a text to get expressively together as a group before performing it together. Reading play script is a really fantastic way as well to encourage children to practice reading aloud with expression in a really fun and non-threatening way. And just as to reference, we have the book club Julia Donaldson plays to act, which are part of our portfolio, which are really fun and engaging play scripts that are especially written for a whole class to read and act as well. Vocabulary development is the final one in that cycle. It's crucial for fluency as well as comprehension. So it's important to make sure that children understand the words that they meet in books. So taking time to explain word meanings and practice new words and using new words in context. Whether you're reading a book club shared book aloud to the class or leading a guided reading session is really, really crucial. So there we have reading miles, rereading and reading aloud. So these three aspects are really prevalent in the reading framework as well. So for all children, reading a lot is the key to developing fluency. And this means it's a good idea to provide a lot of different kinds of reading materials for them to choose from. So favourite comics and picture books, stories you've already read aloud to them, and then you give them to them to have a look and explore them themselves. Non-fiction books on topics of interest, and easy reading page turners. So almost any book that a child's motivated to read will help them to gain reading miles and develop fluency. Rereading books is important for developing that fluency too. So when children reread a book, they don't have to focus so much on decoding and understanding the words. They are free to concentrate on reading with pace, accuracy, and expression. So let's have a quick look at, we've covered reading aloud and the importance of that, and that should be timetabled as well and done frequently. So how can we from Pearson support developing fluency? So we have Book Club Phonics, our DFE validated phonics programme, which aims to help all children in your school learn to read by the age of 6 in a fun and accessible way. So addressing those gaps in phonic knowledge, you would use your own SSP or Book Club Phonics if that's what you're using. Children who have significant gaps will need a more thorough intervention, such as rapid phonics, which is part of our portfolio, before they're able to develop fluency. And we would suggest that they use that after Christmas of year 2 if they're still struggling with knowledge gaps. The framework stresses that both accuracy and reading speed are essential for fluency. Fluency is progressive. So as a teacher, you can help children to increase their fluency by using carefully levelled books, and we have those in our Book Club Independent series. You don't have to wait until a child has fully mastered decoding before starting work on fluency, and all of the Book Club Independent books up to the end of phase 5 are fully decodable and matched to the Book Club Phonics progression. So that offers young readers even more opportunity to practice as they learn to read. And then we have Book Club Reading Corner and Book Club Shared. And these two series are available in print and as ebooks, and they're absolutely perfect to read aloud to children. We also have a read aloud function on Book Club Reading Corner on the ebooks as well, so children can listen to books that they wouldn't necessarily be able to access themselves. So it really supports that reading, listening to new vocabulary and listening to a fluent reader. And then move on to reading for pleasure. So the importance of reading for pleasure is a thread that runs throughout the framework as well. Research has consistently shown that pupils who enjoy reading and read independently for pleasure are more likely to be academically successful. I don't think anybody would argue with that research that we're all very familiar with now. So not only in literacy, but right across the curriculum. So this effect seems to be long lasting, and it's not dependent on a pupil's background either. So pupils who read widely with enjoyment do better at school, regardless of their family situation. And that's what research tells us. So we have some data and some quoting here from the National Literacy Trust report from 2022. The advantages of wide reading are fairly obvious. It extends children's knowledge and builds their vocabulary, which in turn increases their comprehension skills. And reading with enjoyment also provides a rich source of relaxation and well-being and pleasure, which can last a child's whole life. But we can see here from this report from 2022, some stark sort of stats really, which say that fewer than 1 in 2 children aged 8 to 18 said they enjoyed reading in 2022. And that's back on a par with those recorded in early 2020. Previously, the lowest level since we first asked the question in 2005. Really sort of really difficult to kind of digest statistics there. Please do have a look at that slide when I send them to you as a follow-up. And then we have some more data there from the National Literacy Trust around reading frequency. So fewer than 3 in 10 children and young people aged 8 to 18 said they read daily, the second lowest level we've recorded since we started asking this question. So the stark reality is that children are still not reading enough, reading for pleasure enough. And then from the reading framework itself, we have a quote there. Anything that helps to establish the reading habit is worthwhile, including popular page turners, comics, books that are easy reads, and books that stretch children. So how to boost children's enjoyment of reading in your setting? So the framework does suggest things like in your book corner or library, focusing on providing the kinds of books that children actually want to read, as you can see from that quote. You can also make available any book you've read, as I said before, you've already read aloud to the children, make it available to the children to have a look at in their own time. Children often want to revisit stories they've loved listening to, don't they? And rereading really helps to boost their fluency and their comprehension as well. So just some tips there on the slide for you. Making your book corner or library compelling, offering books that they really want to read based on their interests. Allowing children to choose books that are above and below the level of which they can read independently, spending time as a teacher, getting to know the books in your classroom, getting to know them with the children, and using your own knowledge of each child to recommend books and what might really hook and interest them, and make those book recommendations. And of course, promoting reading to parents. We all do that. I'm sure is there anything that we can do more around that, encouraging them to read aloud to their children at home, and encourage them and show them what good modelling of reading looks like, and what reading for, and show children what reading for pleasure looks like from their perspective, and choose books that fit into children's interests. There's a lot we can do there around engaging parents in line with what the reading framework is telling us as well. And then, of course, building reading for pleasure into your timetable is really, really important too. So how can Pearson support reading for pleasure? So again, we have Book Club Reading Corner, which is based on different topics, and it allows children to choose books based on their own interests. And as I said before, these are available in print and in ebooks as well. So there's a book there for every child. Every child will find books they love in Book Club Reading Corner, and they're very flexible because they can be used for children. They can also be used as read alouds for adults in school as well, across a breadth of topics. And then we have Book Club Shared as well, which are for reception year 1 and year 2. And these are absolutely beautiful books for story time, to inspire that love of reading and to teach children cross-curricular vocabulary. So it's ideal when children are not able to access these kinds of books themselves, they still need to be able to hear that vocabulary that will help them to access the rest of the curriculum when they're able to read those books themselves. And they need to see, they need to hear these rich stories and texts to give them a real appetite for reading whilst they're still learning to decode. And then we have comprehension. So what does the reading framework tell us about this? So it's important to teach and model comprehension in year 2. It begins to develop long before children learn to read. I'm sure we can all accept that, largely from listening to and talking about stories that bring us back to Book Club Shared and other literature, of course, as well. So once children can read fluently, they're able to start to develop their comprehension of texts that they read for themselves. They're more able to focus on meaning once they no longer have to focus so hard on decoding. The more children read, the more their comprehension will develop, So comprehension is boosted by reading widely. So this is a real nod again to that reading widely, those reading miles across a range of topics, including both leveled books. So book club independent, for example, if you were using Pearson books, and free choice reading for pleasure. So those kind of reading corner books and the book club shared, which obviously feeds that vocabulary. Children also benefit from listening to books read aloud to them, as I said, as intonation really plays an important part in conveying meaning. So there's that reading widely, which extends children's knowledge of the world, as well as enhancing their vocabulary, both of which have a direct effect on how much children understand. So what does the reading framework tell us? It tells us that comprehension is an outcome and not a skill to practice. And this is possibly a shift from kind of practice that we've kind of been familiar with over recent years, where we've been kind of explicitly teaching comprehension strategies, unnecessarily possibly to some children. So we need to focus on helping children to create a mental model of the text that they read. So a mental model is the understanding that we all bring to the text as skilled readers, often without thinking about it. So for young children, it needs to be modelled explicitly by thinking aloud as we're reading to them and involving children in that process. So for example, explaining out loud when you link to an idea in the book, to your prior knowledge, and model how to work out the meanings of unknown words. The power of the think aloud is really important at this stage for children in year 2. And it's worth reminding children that good readers change their mental models all the time as they read. It's not about getting it right at the start of the book and then sticking to your original ideas. It's really important through modelling that you show them how to change your mind. You articulate this out loud, for instance, by sensor checking initial assumptions and reacting to new clues and information as they crop up in the text. You really need to share this process with them. So, for example, you could say something like, what new information have we just learned about? Does this change what we thought at the beginning? That kind of thing. So you explicitly show them your thought process. Sometimes it is helpful to teach specific comprehension strategies such as predicting and questioning, visualizing, summarizing, clarifying. For example, to help children who are really struggling to use those strategies in their reading. So if you spot that children aren't able to use those automatically, it is suggested in the framework that you keep this teaching specific and time limited, and always link it back to creating a mental model of the text as you read. And this should help children see that you use comprehension strategies all of the time and not just in isolation, and you don't just use them one by one. So how can Pearson support comprehension? So reading widely across a range of topics, including both levelled and free choice reading for pleasure. You can see Reading Corner there, again, featured, which is that library of books based on topics that children will really want to read about. Book Club Shared, which feeds that vocabulary through the read aloud. And of course, we've got the Book Club Independent levelled readers as well. And we've also got Book Club Guided, which at Key Stage 1 is centred around books that your children will really want to read. There are also time-saving guided reading cards which accompany each of the books and cover multiple sessions that go into depth with each text, and they focus on questions that will really challenge and grow children's comprehension skills through the context of a whole text. And then we have oracy. So what is oracy and why is it important? And we see oracy threaded throughout the framework again as well. So oracy is the art of talking and listening, which develops throughout primary school and into being able to offer opinions, present information, and engage in debate as they go through school. So talking and listening, as you will accept, are essential for building children's comprehension skills through discussing and sharing their ideas about what they are reading, and also listening to other people's ideas. And by doing that, they expand their own mental model of the text and increase their own understanding. So again, this is a nod to that think aloud. So this is from the teacher's perspective and from the children's perspective. It's really useful to train children in being able to articulate their thoughts and ideas as they are reading a text. And that also in turn supports their oracy. And of course, you can support that as well by using things like question stems and sentence starters and things like that to support their talk. Talking about books as well increases their pleasure in reading, of course, and that in turn as well can boost their mental health and well-being. And we know that talk also has a positive impact on children's writing. So by discussing and rehearsing what they want to write out loud before putting pen to paper, they get that chance to try out and refine their ideas. And importantly, talking and listening also boosts children's vocabulary. So you can see all of these aspects for year 2 are interlinked and really support each other. So boosting their vocabulary helps to reduce the language gap, obviously, between children from more advantaged and less advantaged backgrounds. And likewise, it's beneficial for children with English as an additional language. And then by discussing new words and modelling how to use them in context, and that's really, really important, you can help children master those words and use them correctly in both speaking and writing. So let's have a look in a bit more detail. So back and forth talk is referenced in the framework, and back and forth talk between you and the children in year 2 in your classes is a really helpful way to introduce and reinforce key vocabulary and ideas that you want them to understand. So this can be used right across the school day, little and often, opportunities, and it's a great way to enhance children's developing comprehension skills as well. We have story time. So building talk into story time or book club time and modelling how to talk about what you're reading. Again, there's that think aloud aspect is really, really important. Encouraging the children to chip in with ideas throughout the session and really articulating their thoughts and ideas as they're reading as well. Instead of asking individual children to answer questions in a group or a whole class situation, so putting them in pairs to discuss what they're reading or answer a question between them is really useful and referenced in the reading framework as well. And this ensures that all children have an opportunity to contribute, including those who are normally less keen to do so. So it kind of really supports those less confident children. And of course, you can listen to the conversations and pick children with helpful or interesting ideas to feed back to the whole group as well. So that's very flexible. And this approach also makes it easier to pick up and correct any misconceptions that certain children might have. And then behaviour. So setting clear expectations about behaviour around talking and listening, including turn taking, listening politely and contributing constructively is also featured in the reading framework. So this will help to keep the general noise level down as well. Because obviously, I'm sure we would all accept that a noisy classroom makes it harder for children to hear and contribute to what's going on. So behaviour and managing the behaviour around talk is really important as well, and will pay dividends. So how can Pearson support oracy? So again, we've got shared reading, book club shared there. So shared reading, as I said, directly addresses the reading framework. So pupils can develop their oracy by having opportunities to engage in quality discussions around the text, and then prioritising reading aloud at this stage, followed by vocabulary and comprehension discussions, enables pupils to improve their ability to express themselves using rich and challenging words from subject areas in the wider curriculum, such as art, geography, history and science. And you will see books focusing on those subjects in this series of books, which is just wonderful, and has that specific vocabulary from those subjects in it. And then book club guided books, again, as I said before, are brilliant to boost oracy because they're designed to spark discussion and encourage children to share their own opinions as well. So that really supports the oracy sort of strand in year 2. And as I said before, those cards that you get with book club guided help teachers to build opportunities to speak and listen into every session as well. And then the final aspect for year 2 is phonics assessment and intervention. So we all know that phonics is the key to being able to read, and the reading framework stresses that children who are falling behind with their reading need swift intervention using an SSP or systematic synthetic phonics. It's really important to spend some time at the start of year 2 assessing their reading and addressing any gaps, as I said earlier on, in their phonics skills and knowledge. We can't underestimate that. So, as I said, at the start of year 2, use your systematic synthetic phonics programme, the one that you've been using for reception in year 1, to assess children's phonics and decoding skills. Checking that all children are able to read words containing all GPCs introduced in year 1, and using your systematic synthetic phonics programme to systematically teach the relevant GPCs and really plugging those gaps. And then a small number of children, so based on your outcomes from those assessments, when you're having a look at what gaps might be occurring or may exist, you may find that a small number of children may have significant gaps in their learning. These would be for various reasons. So, for example, they may have a diagnosed SEND, or they may have had significant time off school. So in these cases, more specific phonics intervention is needed to help them really catch up. So you've got two different sort of categories of children there. You would start year 2 by plugging any gaps. Some children may have just some small gaps and then they can move on quickly, but then there are some children who may have significant gaps that need further intervention. So what would you do in those cases? So how could we help to support phonics assessment and intervention? So going back to Bug Club Phonics or your SSP, all or many pupils are likely to need to consolidate their year 1 phonics knowledge in year 2. And Bug Club Phonics, for example, has built-in assessment to identify areas requiring focus and includes advice on how to address those gaps quickly. We now have a brand new intervention guidance document alongside Bug Club Phonics, which works in tandem with the assessment tracker, which really signposts which interventions children need to plug those gaps and plug those gaps quickly in order for them to be able to access the wider curriculum as they go throughout year 2. And Bug Club Phonics, you can see Bug Club Independent on there as well. So Bug Club Phonics and Bug Club Independent offer a range of fully decodable books up to the end of phase 5 as well, followed by mostly decodable or largely decodable books from orange level in Bug Club Independent, which goes all the way up to dark red. And those kind of books that are largely decodable really ease the transition to reading beyond phonics. So having those finely leveled books at that stage is really, really supportive of children who are just increasing their fluency and who are just coming off the decodable readers and moving to those leveled readers, which are really, really finely leveled for that purpose. And for those children who haven't passed the phonics screening check, rapid phonics. So I would say after Christmas of year 2, rapid phonics is an effective intervention solution with a more granular progression than Bug Club Phonics. For example, it's got a different route, and this really supports children to catch up. It's an effective intervention that breaks phonics down into small steps and reteaches all of the common GPCs to children at a different sort of point in their progression. It's got pick up and go lesson plans, which is designed to be used with small groups, and it can really be effectively used by both teachers and TAs as well. And then we come to spelling, which is our final part of the jigsaw for year 2. We would all accept that phonics is the key to both reading and spelling, which go hand in hand. So spelling, obviously, or encoding is the reverse of reading, which is decoding. But spelling is more difficult than reading. We all know that, I'm sure. So schools need to keep teaching spelling in year 2 and beyond after children have finished learning the phonics that they need for fluent reading. So the national curriculum spelling requirements for year 2 are a really good place to start. And you can see those on the screen there. But there are several techniques as well that can help children to learn to spell, including links to phonics. And that would mean helping children to link the spellings of words back to the phonics that they already know. And that's really supportive of them in year 2, that you're reflecting on what they learned in year 1. So they can tackle a tricky word like beautiful, for example, by using phonics to identify the parts that are straightforward and the part that is tricky. And then it becomes easier to remember the tricky bit of the spelling rather than treating the whole word as tricky, if you like. So Bug Club Phonics itself teaches children the skill of breaking down tricky or irregular words, as they're referenced in Book Club Phonics, into the regular and irregular parts of the word, laying the foundations actually for this method, which you can build on as you're going through year 2. And then morphology. So morphology means dividing a word up into meaningful parts, including prefixes and suffixes. So here is where the phase 6 kind of phonics work comes in, and the national curriculum for year 2. So in the word beautiful, for example, there's a suffix, which obviously is full, which shows the word is an adjective. And this suffix is always spelled the same way. So the rest of the word, beauty, is basically the root word, but we need to change the Y to an I when we add the suffix. So there are those rules that you can teach children. And then etymology. And etymology is the study of word origins, and finding out where a word comes from is often really interesting. And actually, it really adds to engagement and motivation, I found in my experience. And with experience, it can also help children to make connections between words as well. So they can make those kind of word links, which can be really helpful for remembering spelling. So for instance, in this context, the word beautiful comes originally from French, and the modern French word beauté is similar in spelling. So the tricky parts of the spelling in beauty and beautiful are the same, so they can make those connections. So there are 3 parts there to spelling in year 2. And how can we help? So an evidence-based phonics programme, such as Book Club Phonics, is a great tool in supporting pupils to unlock the alphabetic code initially, to get them reading and spelling, and you can still reference the alphabetic code going through year 2, and in fact beyond year 2 as well into Key Stage 2. I find that using the alphabetic code chart, for example, is a really strong tool for spelling. Excuse me. And even after completing the phonics programme, pupils in year 2 and beyond will really need, obviously, to continue to be taught spelling. And as I said, referencing back to what they already know from the phonics programme from year 1 is really useful, and having that point of reference in the way of the alphabetic code is a foolproof way, I would say, of supporting children. And then we've got grammar and spelling bug as well as part of our portfolio, and a fun and interactive spelling programme with quick fire diagnostic checks like grammar and spelling bug really encourages an investigative approach where children discover spelling rules for themselves, which is really motivating and engaging in itself, where they can see their own success. And these are via guided activities, helping them to better remember spelling rules and really embed those spelling rules. And then moving on to engaging parents. So working with parents and carers, and I did sort of allude to this earlier on, is absolutely critical in achieving the best possible outcomes for children's learning, and referenced also in the reading framework. So before children start school, the more parents talk to their children and read and share stories with them, the greater their chances of reading success. And in year 2 and beyond, the engagement of parents and carers still has an absolutely essential and positive impact on boosting children's literacy skills. And of course, we know that parents' attitudes to books and reading can have a profound effect on children's attitudes as well. So working hard to engage parents with reference to the steer from the reading framework is really, really important. So how can you work with parents and engage them in their children's reading? So keeping parents informed about their children's reading progress, and being clear about exactly what you'd like parents to do with when reading at home with them. So all Book Club independent and guided books include tips and activities at the beginning and the end of each, to help to support parents with children's reading. And then we have Book Club and Rapid ebooks, which can all be accessed at home as well as in school. And they're a great way for children to share with parents the books that they're reading in school. So that's a really good connection to make. And then if you've got Book Club Shared and or Reading Corner, and you read that book aloud in school to children, to the class, parents will also be able to access it online to reread with their child. So again, you've got that sharing perspective as well, which really helps to engage the child, and of course helps them to see their home life or their parents as readers as well. And just a side note, really, that Book Club Shared even includes videos of professional storytellers reading each story out loud, so that parents and children can enjoy listening together as well. So it's not necessarily the parent reading the story to the child, they can both enjoy that together. So obviously that really mitigates parents that aren't confident in reading to their children as well. You could also make a selection of printed books available for parents to borrow and share with their children at home. That's a really nice idea to really engage parents. And for children who don't have much support at home, the book club and rapid ebooks are a great way for them to access learning by themselves by allocating them to them. And as I said earlier on, they've got a read to me audio. I think I called it read aloud earlier on, but a read to me audio function so that children can hear fluent reading modeled to them, and it doesn't need to get stuck, if you like. So all ebooks in Rapid, Book Club Independence and Book Club Guided also include built-in interactive activities to engage and encourage children to think about what they're reading and develop their comprehension of text as well. So there's lots, they're multi-layered. So across the whole portfolio, you've got lots and lots of solutions in line with the reading framework. Okay, so we're nearly at an end. How can we help you to deliver the framework requirements? We've currently got a flash sale offer, actually, which I would like to flag to you. So we've got 55% off selected titles and packs, and these are specifically off some our decodable Book Club independent books, which are fully decodable and follow the progression of Book Club Phonics, which is the systematic synthetic phonics program. We've also got that 55% offer of selected titles of that Reading Corner series, which is that series where children can choose books based on their interest, and also ideal to be read aloud to children in year 2 to really immerse them in vocabulary and text types before they can actually have the confidence or the ability to read those books themselves. So that's something to consider. And then finally from me, how can Pearson help you to deliver the framework requirements for year 2? So you are more than welcome to book an appointment to discuss your school's particular priorities for reading and writing in year 2 and beyond. We have a very active Book Club Literacy Community Facebook group where you can join that and share your ideas and experiences around our portfolio of books and products with other members, or find out about them if you haven't got them as yet. We have a primary literacy newsletter mailing list, which you can join as well. And don't forget to join any webinars that we will be airing in the future. So that's it from me today. Thank you ever so much for listening. I will follow up with any FAQs from this session, and we will send you a recording of the webinar as well, so you can have a look at those slides in your own time. But don't forget to get in touch if you want any more information about how we can support you with your year 2 and beyond children, then please do so. Thank you. Bye.